Today I'm going to talk about my favorite color wheel to use, and I think this one is the best because I think it has the most applications. And it's this pocket color wheel, and it shows you how to mix colors. It has all the color terminology, and it has all these neat little sliders that kind of show you what it looks like when you add different colors to other colors. So the first thing I'll note is that it has all of your main color vocabulary. So what are the primary, secondary, tertiary colors? What are warm colors and cool colors? What color, hue, value, intensity, tint, tone, shade, and neutral gray are. I also love that this one just has a built-in value scale. So if you need to find the value of a gray, you can hold it up underneath here and check it to the closest value. On the outside, we have our pure hue, primary, secondary, and tertiary colors. And on this side, as you move it around, you can see what adding the outside colors here does to that color. So say I want to see what adding the complementary color to green is, which is red, that'll create this purplish brown. So it'll give you a good idea of what's going to happen if you mix the primary colors into the color on the outside. It also shows nicely what a white or black added to this color is. So that's some really nice features about the front of this color wheel. On the back, it has all of our color relationships or color harmonies or color schemes, however you want to refer to them. And it has them on here listed and described, but also it has them actually visually shown. So it has monochromatic, analogous, complementary, split complementary, triad, tetrad, and kind of what a key color is within a design. So if you want to know what a split complementary color scheme looks like, you can have your color here, which is your pure color on the outside, and that's going to say, well, this color and this color are the split complementary. So blue-green, split complements are orange and red. So that's a really cool feature of this as well. Same thing with your triad, tetrad, and your complementary. It's going to show what all of those are as you move this around. Another really helpful thing about this color wheel is that it shows you exactly what a tint, tone, or shade of your pure hue will look like. So if you are doing a color scheme like a complementary color scheme that would maybe involve this yellow orange and blue violet, you could see what a tone version of that color scheme would look like too, or a shade version of that color scheme would look like. Additionally, this is super helpful when you are mixing colors. Colors that tend to be hardest for students to mix are browns and tans and very neutral colors. So kind of in this red, orange, orange, yellow, orange area. So we can see here when we look at this area here, if we're trying to make something like a dark brown, either in nature or skin tone, we can look here and say, oh, you might mix a reddish orange or somewhere in between this color first as your pure hue, and then add black to that, because that's what this row is. This is all of the shades on this row. So that's a really great visual reference for students who might have a hard time figuring out how to mix specific colors. Same thing with a lighter skin tone, so something that's in kind of this range or a more peachy skin tone, they might have a hard time visualizing that. But if they look at their own skin compared to it, they might say, oh, I might have to mix a even lighter tint than this of a reddish orange. So that's really, really going to be helpful for them when they're thinking about how to mix very specific colors. The last thing I'm going to show you with how to use this color wheel is how to match colors to colors that already exist. So you might have things like paint samples hiding around. You might put together a color scheme on your phone and be like, how do I mix that color and in real life? So how do I mix it with paint or colored pencils or drawing materials? Well, it's really simple using this color wheel. What you're going to do is you're going to take your sample color, maybe it's on your phone, or maybe you have a sample of it, and you're going to kind of put it right up against these colors. And I would say this is probably closest to this color here, somewhere in between these. So you might say that this is a tone or dark shade of blue-green. So you'd first mix a blue-green and then you'd mix black into it and maybe just a little bit of white to create this color. So that's how you would find a color specifically. Something like this color is really hard to determine where you would go on your color wheel to mix it. When you look at it against a gray of a similar value, it looks fairly neutral, but it's just a little bit warmer. So then you would take this in here, and this one's going to be a lot harder to figure out what it's closest to. But as you visually compare it to it, this one might be a little bit too warm, that one's still a little bit warm, and that one's a little bit cool. So you'd almost want to mix a gray and then put a little bit of red or red violet into it, because I think that will give you the perfect color to match this one. If I'm looking at this one, it's kind of a nice minty toned down green, and I'm going to slide it in here, and again just kind of compare it to the colors. That one's too blue, this one's probably a little bit too green, and that one's closer. So I'd probably mix somewhere between a green and green blue, like a color right in between those two colors, and then add white and maybe just a small amount of gray to it, because I think that that green there, the tone is probably the closest to it, but you probably want just a little bit more blue in there too, because there's a little bit of blue when you mix it, or when you visually match it up to that. So that's that one. This one is a really muted yellow, and I'm going to look at this in comparison to, that's too yellow, and that's super close, right? So I would say it's probably in between these two. This one's a little bit too red. So you'd want to mix a yellow-orange that maybe is just slightly more yellow than this one, and then you would add a bit of black to it, and it would probably create a color very close to that one. You can do the same technique when you're using something like colored pencil. Say you're using a yellow colored pencil, but you want to make it seem like this, you know, middle tone here of yellow. You would just add a little bit of gray in your layering. So you can do this with wet media, dry media, pretty much any color media to find your colors.